All right, good morning, everyone, and welcome to the regular meeting of the Multnomah County Board of Commissioners. Audience members, I want to start by asking you to please silence your electronic devices. I would also like to remind you that in addition to the audience in this room, we have people watching and listening online, so please consider your language and comments and testimony today. Today's meeting is a hybrid board meeting. Some presenters and guests will appear in person and some will appear virtually. For those presenting virtually, please mute your mic when not speaking, and when presenting, make sure to unmute your mic and turn on your camera. For those joining us in person to provide public testimony, or present, please turn your mic on when you begin speaking so the green light is showing, and off when you've completed your remarks so the red light is showing. And for all presenters, please state your name for the record before speaking or responding to questions. May I have a motion on the consent calendar?
Second.
Commissioner Brim Edwards moves. Commissioner Moyer seconds. Approval of the consent calendar. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
The consent calendar is approved.
Opportunity for public comment on non-agenda matters. This is a time for the board to hear public testimony, not for board deliberation. When it is your turn to speak, I will call your name and unmute you or call you to the presenter's table. I will set a timer for 3 minutes when you begin speaking and announce when your time is up, at which point please wrap up your sentence. We have 6 people signed up for verbal testimony and received 16 written testimonies which were shared with board members and staff. We're going to start with our virtual testimony, Ebony Brawley.
Good morning, Chair Vega, Peterson, and Commissioners. My name is Ebony Brawley, and I'm a person who identifies with long-term recovery. I am here today to support Commissioner Moyer's recovery housing voucher proposal to prioritize the safe housing and recovery of houseless parents in our community. Not only am I an individual in recovery, but I also have lived experience navigating the ODHS system. I understand that navigating recovery and housing stability can be overwhelming. For me, none of that would have been possible without the support of my peer who helped guide me through the recovery process, the child welfare system, and the overwhelming steps it takes to rebuild your life while trying to be the parent your child deserves. Today, I'm a little over 4 years clean and have been working in the recovery field for over 3 years. In the duration of my professional career, I have supported many parents in the community, and I cannot think of a single time where both safe, stable housing and recovery services were not needed. In my experience, it has always been both. Unfortunately, getting both recovery services and recovery housing, especially family recovery housing, has been far from few. In my professional opinion, there is not enough recovery housing to house those who are needing the extra support and willing to put in the work. Statistics show that the lack of support is one of the biggest predictors of someone going back out and relapsing, and we've been lacking that extra support for quite some time now. I believe the voucher will be beneficial to those seeking that extra support so they can receive the help that they truly deserve. This voucher program is one step towards increasing access to recovery housing, and I hope this program that can be expanded in the future. Recovery housing provides more than just a roof over someone's head. It provides community, accountability, and stability families need to heal and stay together. When parents are given the right support at the right time, they can and do succeed, and I'm living proof of that, and I've seen so many others succeed as well. I urge you to support this proposal so that more parents in our community have the same opportunity to recover and stabilize and reunify with their families. Thank you for your time, and you're considering this important investment in recovery and family stability.
Thank you. Next up, we have Anna Azizkhani, John Gramstan, Laura Langslet Hall, and Kathleen Thomas.
Good morning. You can go ahead and begin.
Hi, my name is Anna, and I'm here to talk about Multnomah County Animal Services. Gentle Jeffrey was an 80-pound, 2-year-old pitty mix found as a stray on February 7. He was terrified and trembling when he arrived at the shelter. After a few days, he became more relaxed and recommended for adoption. On 2/11, he was neutered. On 2/13, he was one of the 47 dogs that we know of that got sick during the Streptococcus zoo epidemicus outbreak that shut down the shelter for 10 days. He was noted as having a hacking cough and eye discharge for the 2 days prior. He was noted as having, one of the vets prescribed enrofloxacin, the protocol that was suggested by the state vet for the strep zoo. 2 days later, a CVT wrote, switching from enrofloxacin to Clavamox, a medication usually given for regular kennel cough. No reason was written in the public record. On 2/18, another vet checked him and put him back on enrofloxacin, the strep-zoo medication. On 2/23, a CVT noted that he was lethargic and had increased fear, anxiety, and stress. She added behavior medication to his treatment. On 2/24, he was checked by another vet who noted he did not have any eye discharge or coughing and was cleared of the respiratory illness. 3 days later, in the afternoon of 2/27, it was noted that he had 3 large piles of vomit and soft stool on his kennel floor. He was profusely vomiting, lethargic, and trembling. The vet suggested transfer to Dove Lewis or euthanasia. He was euthanized. Gentle Jeffrey was killed on 2/27 for medical decline. His histology results came back positive for Streptococcus zoo epidemicus. I'm having a hard time understanding how the current management of MCAS is still allowed to continue. If 2 dogs found dead in their kennels, Bruce and Nico, and a respiratory outbreak with a forced 10-day quarantine that killed 2 other dogs that we know of, Sir Lunchalot and Levi, is not enough to make changes, what about the fact that management supposedly cleared the shelter of the outbreak, yet at least 1 other dog that we know of, Gentle Jeffrey, has died of the illness since? We want a different shelter manager. According to the organizational chart dated 1/27/26, animal care and animal health fall under the management of 1 person. When are you going to hold him accountable for these failures? Again, we are asking for a medical director, 1 person with a veterinary license that is in charge of the entire animal health department. Until that happens, dogs are not safe there. How long was Gentle Jeffrey showing signs of distress until animal health finally took him back for observation? And also, I need to highlight the lack of use of Dolly's Fund to transfer Gentle Jeffrey to Dove Lewis, since the Animal Health Department is not emergency care. As a reminder, Dolly's Fund is a restricted use donation account for addressing the health needs of animals at MCAS. And as of the end of January 2026, the balance in Dolly's Fund was $703,703.
Thank you. Good morning.
Hi, good morning, Chair Vega Peterson and Commissioners. My name is Laura Hall, and I'm a member of Sober PDX and the founder and director of Project Patchwork, a clean and sober transitional housing program for families where a parent is impacted by substance use disorder. We provide housing, peer support, and case management. We currently operate 4 houses in Multnomah County, serving 23 families. I'm here today to support Commissioner Megan Moyer's Recovery Housing Voucher Pilot Program proposal to allocate $1.8 million to prioritize families and community members in safe substance use disorder supportive housing. I am in long-term recovery, a mother, a social worker, and an advocate for families caught in the systems of houselessness, substance use disorder, and child welfare. Most of the families we serve are involved with the child welfare system. With our support, many parents are able to prevent their children from entering foster care or reunify with their children. This prevents trauma and adverse childhood experiences for families while addressing an immediate housing need. Access to safe, stable housing is critical for recovery and is an essential part of the continuum of care for substance use treatment. Recovery housing addresses the urgent need to house families, especially as unsheltered family homelessness continues to rise, and research shows it leads to better long-term outcomes, including reduced substance use and relapse. Recovery housing is also immediate. Families can move right in right away rather than waiting weeks or months for traditional housing placements. At Project Patchwork, we meet people where they are, in treatment centers, maternity wards, over the phone, or coming from incarceration. Recovery housing is associated with increased employment, reduced recidivism, stronger parenting outcomes, and families exiting the child welfare system. Substance use disorder is the #1 reason for child welfare involvement, and recovery housing helps address that root cause. It is also cost effective. Recovery housing can serve twice as many families with the same public investment compared to traditional housing models. But beyond the data, I want to share what hope looks like. I had a father in my program who had been in foster care in the criminal justice system since he was 12. His own child was in foster care when he entered our program. After reunifying with his child, enrolling in school, and being approved for housing, he texted me one day and said he felt something he didn't recognize. He said he thought it might be hope and asked if that's what other people felt every day. I've seen parents in our program begin to believe in themselves again, that they can work, parent, recover, and build stable lives. Recovery works, recovery housing works. When I was a child, I was eating a Ben & Jerry's ice cream, and the stick said for every $1 you invest in preschool, you save $3 in the future. And a recent 2024 study from the state of Kentucky found that for every $1 spent on recovery housing, communities save $3 in avoided costs. Investing in recovery housing is not only compassionate, is it effective and fiscally responsible. This pilot would allow Multnomah County to define, track, and demonstrate a solution that we in the recovery community know works. I hope that you will support Commissioner Moyer's proposal and help Multnomah County recover. Thank you for your time in supporting families in our community. We do recover.
Thank you. Anybody whose name has been called, you can come on down. If your name was called. If your name was called to provide public testimony, come on down to the dais.
We had John Gramstan. If he's not here, then we have Lightning and Frank Pellegrino.
Great. Thank you. You can go ahead and begin. Thanks.
Good morning. My name is Kathleen or Kate Thomas. I took time off of work within the direct clinical services to come talk with you. Thank you for hearing me. High-quality services that reduce disparities, inclusively leading with race, breaking down systemic barriers created by all forms of oppression within our workplace and community. These are outtakes from the Multnomah County mission and values statements. Inclusively leading with race. I've seen the demographics of our workforce change remarkably in the 20 years I've been with the county. We have become increasingly representative of our community. High-quality services. Direct clinical services staff are currently trained and utilize a variety of evidence-based therapeutic practices. Most recently, through grant funds, many of us are preparing to be trained in parent-child psychotherapy, a gold standard of culturally adaptive evidence-based treatment. An initiative focusing on feedback-informed treatment is currently being rolled out. This is an internationally utilized evidence-based approach which centers client voice and has been shown to significantly improve outcomes in treatment, and it's financially encouraged through CARE Oregon. All of the trainers of the feedback-informed treatment are being cut. This is an initiative that could improve services and save money. Preschool for All, mental health cares, and gun violence prevention programs are being completely cut, and early childhood and school-based mental health services are taking significant cuts. These programs actively help to prevent the continuation of the preschool to prison pipeline. The age of suicide is getting younger, and the suicide rate for Black, Indigenous, LGBTQ+ youth is significantly increasing. We have the only culturally responsive community-based mental health program for preschool-aged children in the county. It's funded in large part by taxpayers. The funds are there, yet it's being cut. The proposed budget cuts are systemically racist. All of the programs being cut are supervised by Black or Indigenous supervisors. 89% of the proposed staff cuts are staff who have specific cultural, racial, or linguistic skills. I've repeatedly seen our BIPOC providers sidelined. Why are our culturally specific providers and supervisors who work to support the most vulnerable youth in the county being targeted, while other higher paid positions or those simply not doing their jobs are remaining? Rather than continuing to perpetuate a system of racism and cost the county more money in the long run, please look to support our youngest, most vulnerable community.
Thank you. Good morning. You can go ahead and begin.
Well, I'm Frank Pellegrino.
And then you just have to-
On red, do I push it?
You just press that button, exactly. Push the button. There you go. You're all set.
Okay. Oh, well, I'm sure y'all are busy, but I've had problems, and I was wanting to put it on agenda because I don't know if 3 minutes isn't going to cover this. But I'll be willing to settle for $1,000 before I go to the district attorney. And I got robbed over there by Do Good Multiple. It's totally mismanaged over there at the location of Y East, and it was an inside operation by the employee, one of the employees, I guess, or a couple of them, I don't know. We'll get to the bottom of it later, I guess. Anyway, so I was over there at the city. I don't know who actually they get their 501c3 nonprofit money from. I don't know if it's from the county or the city. This is all new to me. And I got to find out if I'm even at the right place. And let's see, I made an appointment to be here last week, but I guess it was full, so I had to make it for this week. And anyway, it's a long story. If I only got 3 minutes, I just wanted to let you know that then that's the problem. And I guess I got to go on the internet and I guess write it all down so that y'all can read it. My question is Do Good Multiple, the organization, financed through, I guess it comes from federal government to state down to county, and I don't know if it stops there or goes to city, where they get their funding from?
So we don't have dialogue during public testimony, but I have Stacy Bork in the back, who's on my staff, who is going to be able to talk with you when you're done with your testimony. So
Okay.
there's somebody in the back who can talk with you and answer some of your questions.
Yeah, when I registered, I requested, well, I'm hard of hearing and I got tinnitus, and I'm 74 this month. And anyways, yeah, I requested a device, a hearing device, and also an interpreter for English, because sometimes I have trouble interpreting different people's their diction. And I don't have any problem right now other than just it's very low volume. I don't know, is there some way to hook up with Bluetooth with this room or something?
Yeah.
So I could put it in my ear?
Yes, we do. I mean, the room is set up to work with hearing aid devices and amplify those if you have that. So we can work on getting that for you as well. Okay.
Okay, well, thank you very much.
Did you have more testimony?
What's that?
Did you have any more
Well,
testimony?
I got one other question. I'm into the news, and they don't allow me to watch the news over there where they moved me, because they closed Y East and moved me over to Arbor Lodge. And I'm wondering why they cover on the news, the city council, but not the county council, county commissioners. On the ABC, CBS, and NBC News. They won't let us watch the news over there even. And
Okay.
I'm running into all these rules. And it was originally started, this do-good, by a veteran. And now
So your time is up, but Stacy Bork is in the back, and she can continue talking with you. So Stacy, do you want to come there?
Oh, okay.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
Yes, my name is Lightning. I represent Lightning Super, Abundance for All, Pegasus Griffin Lab. One of the questions I have to Multnomah County is that I heard an alert in San Francisco there might be some drones heading toward Silicon Valley. And my question to the leaders of Portland is, if that happens to Portland, where's the nearest bunker that I can go to? And I'm not trying to be funny here. We see what's going on in the world, and we see various threats going on around the world. And this threat toward California, you can verify that what am I supposed to do in Multnomah County if we have an alert that there is a swarm of drones heading toward the city? Where's my bunker that you are providing me as the government for my safety and my protection? Do you have a bunker to go to? And the people don't. Where am I supposed to go? What is the plan? We've already heard possibly nuclear war possibly beginning. Where am I supposed to go? What have you done as far as providing me a place, a bunker, for my safety? Or do you want me just to stay above earth and watch what's going on in other areas? What have you provided me? And is the answer nothing? Are we just going to have a siren going on and seeing these drones come in, and I'm supposed to just sit here and go, well, gee, the government's provided me nothing. Not a thing. What is the purpose of the government if you haven't built any bunkers? When you look around this world on what's going on right now, and how easily people have drones now that are $30,000 to $50,000 that can come in and cause a tremendous amount of damage, what have you done for the people and their safety on this issue? Will there be a siren going off if there's a swarm of drones coming into Portland? Where are the people supposed to go? Go sit in your house? Are you kidding me? You've seen what happens in these other countries when they do that. So what has the government done to protect Lightning's safety? Is there a bunker in the city of Portland that I can go to? That is my question. And you can have your chief of staff notify me if there is, and I'm sure you're going to allow me to be one of the first people in there. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
That concludes public testimony. We'll now move to R1. R1, resolution to amend contract with Hamilton Construction Company for the Morrison Strengthening Project by an additional $2.1 million.
All right, may I have a motion? Commissioner Jones-Dixon moves, Commissioner Singleton seconds, approval of R1. All right, and we have Emily here from Transportation. So Emily, I will turn it over to you.
Great,
Thanks
thank
everyone
you.
who came for public testimony.
Good morning, Chair Vega-Peterson and Commissioners. My name is Emily Militich. I'm an Engineering Services Manager with the DCS Transportation Division. Today, I am here to request approval of a resolution to increase the construction contract with Hamilton Construction Company for the Morrison Strengthening Project for an additional $2,100,000. The Morrison Strengthening Project is a capital improvement project on the Morrison Bridge across the Willamette River. Its primary objectives are to eliminate the current emergency vehicle weight restrictions on the bridge, to prevent machinery failure that helps the bridge open and close to river traffic, and to increase the overall longevity of the bridge. The original project was awarded about $8 million in federal grant, and those funds were intended to create significant structural repairs on the bridge. And then through further engineering analysis during the design phase, the project team was actually able to significantly reduce the amount of structural repairs that were required in order to meet the original objectives, which resulted in about $4 million in overall project cost savings. This savings created an opportunity for the county to add additional structural repairs to the project that hadn't been included in Hamilton's original construction contract. The project team worked with the Oregon Department of Transportation, Multnomah County Bridge Maintenance, and the project team to identify 3 primary additional scopes of work that could be added and would still stay within the original funding limits of the grant. Those scopes included replacing some failed driving surfaces that are on the main river spans, to also install structural bracing that can further strengthen the bridge, and to replace some additional bridge joints. The estimated cost of that additional work is $2.1 million. The $2.1 million would be funded 90% by the original federal grant and 10%, or about $215,000, with state highway fund that has been allocated to the Transportation Division Bridge Fund. Those additional $2.1 million will exceed Hamilton's original construction contract, which was $1,594,000 and $850. And therefore requires board approval to exceed the procurement authority. With that, that is all I have for you today. Thank you for your time, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
All All right, thank you so much. Really appreciate you being here. And we'll see if there are any questions. Any D4? D3? D2? D1? Commissioner Moyer.
How will this scope change the timeline for completion?
Yeah, so the original work was expected to be completed at the end of February. The part of the work that's being added is weather sensitive, so we do have to extend the completion date of the project to the end of this fiscal year, so about the end of June, but we anticipate that most of the work will get done in May if it's approved.
Thanks.
Thank you. Do we have any public testimony on this item?
Yes, we have Lightning.
Emily, if you don't mind stepping back, and then we'll do the vote after public testimony.
Yes, my name is Lightning. I represent Lightning Super Abundance for All the People, Pegasus Griffin AI Lab. Now, on this resolution, it was my understanding when I was reviewing all the data that you also referred to the Broadway Bridge on this resolution, and I didn't quite understand that on why you had a notation of the Broadway Bridge there. And again, we're talking about the Morrison, and it was my understanding that you received a grant, and your grant ask was higher than what it actually took to do the project. So I do approve of this, but like I say, there was a little confusion on the Broadway Bridge notation being there. And again, to Multnomah County, I still don't have a clear understanding if we're going to get anything done on these bridges as far as the seismic upgrades. And your wonderful relationship with your wonderful president of yours, Donald J. Trump, doesn't seem to want to give you any money at all. And has the county actually stated that we're not going to be able to do the seismic upgrades on these bridges? Or are you just thinking you're going to try to vote him out and that money will just come in later? Because you haven't really been clear on that issue, because I know that he doesn't want, because of the wonderful relationships you've developed over the years with him, doesn't want to give you one penny. In fact, he wants to pull back anything that you've ever been given and probably ask for it all to be given back. All of it, the last 10 years. If he could, he probably would, because of your wonderful relationships that you develop with the President of the United States, which it is your job when you're voted in to do that. And to think that your job is not to do that, that's foolishness. You shouldn't be sitting up in these chairs, because we're seeing what is happening right now on all these federal grants, and they're being ripped away from the people. The people. That's going to affect the bridges. That's going to affect everything else. And we're not talking about that bunker issue, which I take very serious, and if any of the FBI people or DOJ people that are watching this, which they do, why hasn't that happened right now? Where are they? Where are the bunkers? And I know someone that can do that quite easy, and that's Elon Musk. Give him a call. He'll build an underground city and the bunkers simultaneously to protect the people of this city.
All right, thank you. So Emily, you're welcome to come back up. I don't know that we have any other questions. I do want to thank you and the team for the work on this, and glad we were able to get some more different kind of work done on the bridge that is needed based on the savings that were discovered in the design process. So thanks for that. Emily, can we have a roll call vote?
Commissioner Moyer?
Yes.
Commissioner Singleton?
Yes.
Commissioner Broom Edwards? Yes. Vice Chair Jones Dixon?
Yes.
Chair Vega Peterson?
Aye, the resolution is adopted.
Thank you.
Thank you.
R2, resolution approving the project plan for construction for the Sobering and Crisis Stabilization Center per the FAC 1 administrative procedure.
Thank you. May I have a motion? Commissioner Jones-Dixon moves, Commissioner Brim Edwards seconds approval of R2. So I want to start this approval process and today's FAC 1 with a huge shout out of thanks for all the staff from the Department of County Assets and the Health Department for the work they've done to get us today. I also want to thank Commissioner Brim Edwards for her leadership on this project and the continued advocacy for this to be a priority for the county. We've heard from law enforcement and first responders consistently over the last several years about the need for a permanent 24/7 sobering and crisis stabilization center, which reflects a community safety approach to mental health crisis care. This center will be a focus point in providing an alternative to emergency departments and jails for individuals needing sobering and crisis stabilization. Today, the board looks to adopt a resolution to proceed with the construction on the Sobering and Crisis Stabilization Center project per the FAC 1 administrative procedure. This is big work, exciting work that will make a difference for our community, and I want to thank the team for being here, and I'll turn it over to you to continue with this item.
All right. Well, thank you, Chair Vega Peterson and Commissioners. It's really nice to be with you today. My name is Dan Zalko, Division Director for Facilities and Property Management, a division within the Department of County Assets. I'm happy to be joined today by Natalie Amar, Program Liaison with the Behavioral Health Division Director's Office, Mark Harris, Strategic Initiative Manager with the Health Department, and Greg Hockert, Assistant Director for Planning, Design, and Construction in the Facilities Division. In the audience, we're also joined by the Construction Project Manager, Tony Viner, and the Assistant Project Manager, Martin Favel, and Leah Drebin from the Health Department, all of whom have been extremely active in the design and planning work. I'd like to thank all of them for their excellent, dedicated work on the project. Next slide, please. So today we're going to share with you the progress we've made towards the opening of the Sobering and Crisis Stabilization Center and seek your approval to proceed with construction. Next slide, please. I'll share with you and the public background information about the project. Mark will talk about project goals and objectives, services that will be offered, and the engagement with the community that has and will occur. And then Greg will go over the construction scope, project budget, and proposed funding scenarios or sources, COVID participation projections, and project schedule. We'll then turn it over to you for feedback and questions, and then seek your approval to proceed with construction. Next slide, please. In September 2024, you all approved us using the construction manager general contractor project delivery method for this project, the standard at the county for large project and a very important way in managing cost, schedule, and quality. We acquired the property last April, and also that month you all approved us proceeding with formal design. We hired Scott Edwards Architecture and Fortis Construction through competitive procurement processes with many bidders, and I'm pleased that we have Margaret Wilson and Elena Cope from Scott Edwards, and Will Maw, Brad Schmidt, and Ashley Buchanan from Fortis here with us today, all of whom have been excellent partners. Next slide, please, and I'm now happy to turn it over to Mark Harris.
Thanks, Dan. For the record, I'm Mark Harris, he, him, Strategic Initiatives Manager in the Health Department Director's Office. I'll start off by saying the center has trauma-informed design that creates welcoming spaces to foster healing and support clients in their next steps towards recovery. It is intended to be a resource for law enforcement, first responders.
Mark, can you bring the mic a little bit closer to you, please?
Yeah, sorry, Chair.
That's okay, thank you.
Is that better? Okay. It is intended to be a resource for law enforcement, first responders, and other partners to bring individuals to services as opposed to taking them to the hospital or jail or leaving them on the street. The building is designed for 3 specific spaces: intake and assessment, sobering, and withdrawal management. Each space will facilitate care coordination, case management, and referrals. Space is designed for staff and client safety with the appropriate licensing requirements to operate as a care facility. Next slide, please. The main services planned for the permanent facility that were approved by the board in April include sobering, withdrawal management, deflection, and medication-assisted treatment. All services will be available on day 1 of opening. Medication-assisted treatment and withdrawal management are reimbursable. We will be licensed at ASAM Level 3.7 withdrawal management. Deflection is not reimbursable and will be funded by the Criminal Justice Commission grant. Sobering also is not reimbursable. However, as we will discuss shortly, crisis stabilization might become reimbursable. Now I'd like to take a moment to share about the additional services we'll offer to support these programs and individuals being served at the center. These additional services include, but are not limited to, offering showers, laundry services, food, referrals, care coordination, discharge planning, and transportation. It's worth noting that peers play a critical role at the Pathway Center and will continue to do so at the permanent facility. In relation to the services we'll be providing, Commissioner Moyer asked what services could be provided in the sobering side of the permanent facility. That section of the facility allows for occupancy up to 24 hours and can house both sobering and crisis stabilization services to individuals with substance use disorder and co-occurring mental health needs. The state rules for crisis stabilization centers are currently being drafted. To ensure the county's ability to provide the most appropriate services to this population, the facility is being built to meet the requirements set forth in the draft rules. By building according to the draft rules, design changes or future building renovations can be avoided. Any of the crisis stabilization services allowed under the final adopted rules can be offered at the permanent facility. Right now, those include diagnosis, stabilization, observation, and follow-up referral services. Crisis stabilization services may become reimbursable after the rules are adopted and if coordinated care organizations adjust fee schedules. This would allow the program to have another revenue source in addition to withdrawal management and medication-assisted treatment. We also understand there is interest in knowing what will happen when someone is brought to the center who is on methamphetamine. The sobering program at the Pathway Center is currently providing sobering to individuals using methamphetamine. Clients in sobering have tested positive for methamphetamine more than any other substance. We've highlighted in the past some of the primary differences between the old sobering station and our Pathway Center sobering program is that individuals come in for services voluntarily and we offer medications to help keep them more comfortable and stable. These two differences have led to keeping clients and staff safe. At the permanent facility, we'll also be able to serve clients on methamphetamine as well as a full range of other substances on both the less than 24-hour side and in withdrawal management. This would include clients with co-occurring substance use and mental health if they are deemed clinically appropriate for the facility after being screened and assessed. Currently, if an individual is not clinically appropriate for the Pathway Center, we coordinate and provide transportation to the most appropriate clinical setting. This will be the same at the permanent facility. I'll also add that we are working with our system partners to admit individuals on involuntary holds, namely Unity and Providence, to ensure access to the right level of clinical care for that population. In addition to speaking to some of the different interests that this board expressed, I would like to highlight how we are working to increase utilization at the Pathway Center. We know that the health department and board have a shared interest in utilization at both the Pathway Center and permanent facility. Currently, our work is focused on expanding incoming referral pathways and strengthening relationships. As you are aware, the current pathways into deflection and sobering services at the Pathway Center are limited, which impacts utilization. For sobering, the program is actively working to expand those pathways and relationships outside of our current referral partners. For example, the program partnered with recovery housing providers Lasco Refuge and Iron Tribe Network and began onboarding them to begin referring individuals starting March 16th. This partnership with recovering housing providers is a critical one as it can help individuals maintain their housing. Additionally, the program is onboarding Central City Concerns Hooper Detox as a referral partner this week and hopes to expand to their outreach team soon. We also had the Department of Community Justice out at the Pathway Center last week to talk through what the process would look like for DCJ to refer, and DCJ is moving forward with drafting their internal processes for referring individuals. The program also has regular check-ins with referral partners to help support them, learn about their barriers, and improve utilization and services. They are also planning to see how we can improve services with potential new partners. Since the majority of Pathway Center clients are experiencing houselessness, we've partnered with Homeless Services to train staff, use HIMS, and have access to first responder set-aside beds. We also continually evaluate transportation and shuttling options and are exploring how those could be expanded as we move towards opening the permanent facility. It goes without saying that these relationships, new partnerships, and referral pathways will all carry over to the permanent facility once we transition. We plan to continue to build out partnerships to ensure high utilization at the Pathway Center and permanent facility. Also at the permanent facility, having deflection, sobering and crisis stabilization services alongside withdrawal management and medication-assisted treatment services will provide a unique model with 24-hour access where individuals can move between levels of care and go through intake at any time of the day, also increasing utilization. Next slide, please. I'm excited to share that as a result of the RFPQ process, Community Bridges Incorporated was selected as the operator for the permanent facility. CBI's mission is to maintain the dignity of human life and they use a holistic approach to addiction treatment and behavioral health concerns. The organization was founded in 1982, and they provide a full continuum of substance use and mental health services, including but not limited to substance use treatment, mental health treatment, crisis stabilization, peer support, MAT services, outreach, inpatient, residential, supportive housing services, and more. They operate in Arizona, Oklahoma, Washington, D.C., and obviously soon to be Oregon. In describing their work, CBI relayed that every site is staffed by licensed professionals trained in trauma-informed care, culturally responsive services, and evidence-based treatment approaches. Peers specifically are at the heart of CBI and their model. Additionally, they intend to hire a community liaison to establish referral networks, and those networks would include culturally specific providers in the community. As you know, our program model is built upon referrals to community providers. The Behavioral Health Division team will support CBI in building relationships with these providers. Behavioral health will also provide ongoing technical assistance to CBI in maintaining relationships and utilizing referrals to substance use disorder providers, including culturally specific providers when appropriate. Next slide, please. Okay. This is related to our public engagement. The Health Department facilities attended the Central East Side Industrial Council board meeting in January, and the Hosford-Abernathy Neighborhood District board meeting this month to provide a project update, including about the FAC1, construction timeline, good neighbor work, and Regional Art and Culture Council. Overall, CEIC and HAND understand the need for the services in the neighborhood and want to have a signed good neighbor agreement. On February 12th, information about the FAC1 and start of construction was distributed via email to the project send list, HAND, CEIC, and additional partners, and via social media campaign with geolocating for the neighborhood. As of yesterday, the social media campaign received over 16,000 views. To ensure construction start awareness, outreach has begun to neighboring businesses. For example, we are working with our contact at Goodwill to schedule a meeting. Regional Art and Culture Council participation is launching this spring. CEIC and HAND have confirmed their participation on the voting panel. Finally, outreach has started for the formation of the Good Neighbor Advisory Council with CEIC, HAND, and Goodwill. CEIC has already identified 2 representatives to participate. Now I pass it to Greg to discuss project design.
Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning, Chair, Commissioners. Greg Hockert, he, him, Assistant Director for Planning, Design, and Construction for Facilities. Next slide, please. I get the pleasure of walking you through where our design is at. This is an overview of the Design All program on one floor. Up on the upper left, pinkish area is our intake, assessment, and discharge locations. And then to the green to your right is our sobering, which has 18 care stations related to it. And then down to the lower bottom of your screen in the yellow is our managed withdrawal spaces that has 14 care stations, 29 care stations. And the very bottom right, in an orange color, is our commercial kitchen, and then the gray spaces throughout the spaces, service stations for facilities, mechanical, IT spaces, and electrical rooms. Next slide, please. I'm going to zoom in on each space here and kind of go through it. This is the intake and discharge and assessment space that we showed you on the previous slide. You'll notice at the top of the screens that also showing you the different types of entries into the building, where staff are entering, public entry, first responder, and the participant exit where the discharge spaces go. Next slide, please. We'll move over to sobering, where we have the 18 care stations. On the left, you're showing those how they're set up. On the right is a rendering that shows you your field of view. That white arrow on the left-hand side of the screen is where you're standing in that rendering. You can notice that there's low barrier walls in this space. That's for line of sight for the caregivers so that they can monitor the care during that particular time. It also allows for adaptability of this space over time. We're not having full height walls that are full structured walls to the ceiling. Next slide, please. Moving down into managed withdrawal, we have 29 care stations in this space. Again, still line of sight with low barrier walls, beds in this area. And also, like with sobering, it allows us for adaptability of this space because we don't have a lot of enclosed spaces. You'll notice the arrow again showing your point of view from the rendering on the right. Next slide, please. Here are some views of different spaces, some renderings of different spaces of the building. On your upper left is a view of the common community space within Managed Withdrawal. To your right, moving to your right, is a sobering community space. And down at the bottom are 2 public areas, reception and public waiting spaces. Gives you a conceptual idea of what the spaces will look like when completed. Next slide, please. Construction. Overall construction construction activities is a major renovation, which includes a demo of the wood mezzanine that's currently existing there, so all programmable fee on the first floor. Full seismic and structural upgrades of the building. All building systems will be upgraded and to align to our 2025 Energy Code standards. Obviously, interior spaces improvements will be done. There'll be some site upgrades as well as some minimal facade improvements, as well as you saw the original slide, the rendering from the exterior as well. Next slide, please. Here's our overall project budget. As we were back at you in April 17th of last year, we presented at that particular point a $29.8 million project. That's where we are right now. On the left shows you the current breakdown of what those funds are, of a little over $21 million in hard costs, a little over $8.5 million in soft costs and owner's contingency. You'll notice within that I've broken out the RAC funds that are related and our community diversity equity fund contribution, which is internal 1% of direct construction costs. We're totaling of $29.8 million all in construction. To the right is an interesting graph. As you remember back in April, we were in very early stages of programming. We were in the process of due diligence and acquiring the site and really discovering what we were going to build. The cost estimate at that time was really at 150,000 foot level. It's kind of like flying a ship and building it at the same time kind of concept. And what this graph shows you over time is the cost in each phase of design. We had Fortis, our CMGC contractor, and a third-party independent cost estimator, both costs at various levels of design. And at that stage, they cross-compared those estimates. We strategized on cost-saving managers and value engineering options and did redesign. So it flows through the different levels of design to get back to $29.8 million. This design period, typically for a project of this size, could be double the time period. We submitted our construction documents to the city of Portland in December of last year. The fact that we got all this way and we're within our target budget and we presented to you a year ago is just a tribute strength to the team, Fortis Construction, SEA, the creative thinking, and really driving ourselves down to $29.8 million as our target. Next slide, please. Project funding. The top of this slide represents the $29.8 million. First, as we came into this, there's always been an open question whether the $25 million of state funds that originally was going to be enough or would be enough whatsoever to do the tasks we have, including the temporary pathway center and the permanent location. The $29.8 million represents the full-on project for the permanent center. The little over $15 million is representative of what's left over from that $25 million of state funds. And the $14.2 million is the proposed one-time offer general fund contributions from the county through fiscal year 27 and 28. At the bottom of the slide is a representation of what was spent to date through that $25 million, both with the Pathway Center construction and the acquisition of the current building we're presenting in front of you today, leaving the $15.5 million left. Next slide, please. This is our co-bid participation side for construction. On the left is the representations of the divisions of work that were achieved with the dollar amounts associated to that. And on the right is the certification breakdown of the 25% that Fortis Construction has achieved through their bidding efforts. 19% of that is through the minority business enterprise, and 6% of that is the women-owned business. Next slide. Construction schedule, as of we presented to you back in April, has not changed. That's another amazing feat to keep this all in line. We've been pushing really hard to maintain what we originally presented. The stars are representing milestones. With approval today, we plan on mobilizing and starting construction within a few weeks with the demolition of that wood mezzanine and moving into full construction activities. With substantial completion in September of 2027, there'll be some training and some stand-up time between the substantial completion and full operations that will include testing of the building systems, training of operational staff, and going through activities that will get ready for occupancy. Next slide, please. Oh, and I hand it back down to Dan.
Well, thank you, Greg, Mark, and Amar. We are here today seeking your approval to proceed with construction of the Sobering and Crisis Stabilization Center project aligned with the FAC 1 administrative procedure, and we're now happy to turn it over to you for questions, feedback, and your approval. Thank you.
All right, thank you all very much for the overview. I know we're going to have some questions and comments from the board about this, but we do have a couple people signed up for public testimony, so I'm going to go ahead and bring them forward, and then we'll call you back.
We have Marissa Cade and Lightning.
Good morning, Chair Vega Peterson, members of the commission. It's nice to see you this morning. I'm Marissa Cade. I facilitate Sober PDX, which is a coalition of recovery service providers here in the Portland area in Multnomah County, serving a lot of different folks, different walks of life. Our membership includes the Oregon Black, Brown, and Indigenous Advocacy Coalition and their leadership with Miracles Club and Juntos. We've got Iron Tribe and LASCO, who are referring partners, lots and lots of members that you've heard from over the years. And we're very excited about this opportunity. And I just wanted to share a little bit of some of the things we've been talking about at our coalition table. One of those things is functionally one of the outcomes of creating this opportunity for folks in our community to begin their journey in recovery. We're kind of widening the front door, to use a metaphor that Devarshi Bajpai from Fora uses a lot. And something that our community talks about is how can we rally service providers behind that big, wide, open door to provide great hospitality when people walk through it. And I think we just want to highlight the need for resources to ensure that there's not a bottleneck in the services available to people who come through that broad door. There are many stripes and variety of recovery services in our community, but something that we've kind of coalesced around as a coalition is the need for more recovery housing to avoid some of the more acute stops along that path for people's recovery from becoming bottlenecked and preventing people from moving along in their journey. So we just want to highlight that with regards to this new opportunity. Thank you for your leadership in this, and also remain available to partner with you as this moves forward. So thank you.
Thank you. And I understand there was a little bit of a confusion between non-agenda testimony and testimony on an item, so I appreciate you adjusting your testimony to relate to this item. Thank you.
They're very related.
Yes, my name is Lightning. I represent Lightning Super X. I absolutely agree with this project, and I like so far everything that I'm seeing. And the only problem I've ever had on this whole issue is that why this was not done a long time ago, to have a project of this caliber for the people to be able to use, especially when you're talking the sobering aspect of it for a lot of people. I mean, we see people out on the streets and we understand they need something like this, and they've needed it for many, many years. And again, they need to be treated properly, professionally, and with respect. And one of the questions I had is that on I think the previous sobering center many years ago used to take people as far away from Scappoose. Now, how is this center going to operate as far as that, as far as like boundaries, like going all the way from Scappoose to Portland? Is that just open for anyone to come from Lake Oswego, from Scappoose, from any other locations to use this center? And I wasn't quite clear on that yet. Now, on the demolition side of it, I thought the $700,000 might have been a little bit high as far as the demolition cost. I don't know how many bids you took in on that. And on the price of the building at $6,200,000, it's a 26,000 square foot structure. I've looked at the property. Was that based upon an appraisal on that valuation? I always like to have an appraisal done just for when we're using taxpayer dollars. I want to have that price confirmed by the professionals, not just a number that's given by an owner. I want $7 million for my property, you pay it or walk. I want an actual appraisal based upon that value, because I'm looking at buildings right now that are selling for $2 million that are 50,000 square foot buildings. And the values are depressed right now, that's my point. So when you're getting $6 million, I just want to make sure that that value is based upon an actual appraisal at the current market conditions when we come up with that number. And also, like I say, on the, I didn't hear how many off-street parking there was. I was kind of curious on that issue to make sure we have adequate parking at this site. I didn't hear any statements on that, and I can review the data, but I didn't hear any statements made, and that's a very important issue to have off-street parking around this building. But as far as anything else I see here, I think it's absolutely wonderful to see this happening, and it should have happened many, many years ago.
Thank you. All right, I'll ask staff to come back up, and we'll open it up to the board for questions. And we'll start with Commissioner Jones-Dixon.
Yep, no questions, just comment. Appreciate the progress and supportive of where we are so far. It's a much needed resource in the community, which we all know, so I won't belabor the point. Thank you again for your work, and I'm hopeful.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Brim-Edwards.
I just have one question, and I'll have some comments before we have a final vote. But my question is, thank you very much. I feel like this has been a long journey. I was looking back to when it started in September of 2023 with the unanticipated revenue, back in the old days when there was unanticipated revenue, that we embarked on this project, and I really appreciate, I was looking through the timeline, appreciate the work the staff has done. And I think it's no surprise that I've been like pushing with urgency of like, how can we get this done faster? And, you know, I've been frustrated with the timeline. One of the things when it moved from the board the approval and at staff level, staff driving it, there have been these monthly meeting, or every other month meetings around just like progress with what's happening, which have been very helpful, and I think all the commission offices have been invited to that. Early on, there was a staffer who I think has now left the county who had created a milestones document, and it was similar to, in some ways, but it was that green, yellow, red, like where are things on track or off track, and which allows you to, like, you know, course correct if things are off track. In today's presentation, there is a great chart with the timeline, sort of major milestones for the construction, and there's not one for the programming, and I know this is more about the construction today, but we did at one time have a county commissioner, a county staff person who was doing this sort of programmatic milestones, and I'm wondering, is that still an internal document, and if so, that could be provided to the commission just so we could see on the programmatic side how the two pieces are moving together.
Yeah, we're still tracking that, and we can make sure that it's in the tracker that gets sent out monthly. If I'll double check on exactly what's in there. I can't remember off the top of my head, but if it's not, we'll make sure it gets added in.
Great. It would just be helpful to be able to see the overlay of the construction, which obviously the building is very important, but also to see how the programmatic pieces are overlaying and just to be tracking sort of where we are on all those pieces.
Okay, noted. Thanks, Commissioner.
Thank you, Commissioner Singleton.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you all for the work on this project. I do have a couple of questions. How many other deflection programs have these site-based models in the state?
You're asking in the state, Commissioner?
Yes.
I don't know that there are others that have a center-based model quite like ours, but I would prefer to go back and confirm the answer.
Absolutely. And what is the projected annual cost of operating this site?
We're still, right now, we're working with CBI around their contract negotiation for next fiscal year, simultaneously with what the contract negotiation is going to look like for the permanent facility. So we're still waiting on budgets and things. So we can come back to you with that answer, but right now it's kind of in flux as we work with a provider to detail that out. We have done some assessments on revenue related to withdrawal management based on the current fee schedule. So, you know, we can provide some information around that if it would be helpful.
It would be, thank you. And on slide 5, in the first bullet, it talks about it will have, it's for individuals in need of sobering, withdrawal management, and sheltering. And I don't know that I've noticed that word sheltering before in your slides or in these conversations, so I'm just curious what we mean by that.
The participants in managed withdrawal and sobering, they have a time stay of up to 24 hours, but they move to managed withdrawal. They can stay there as long as they need. Typically, the managed withdrawal process is less than a week or more, but if they needed to stay longer, they could stay as long as they needed, Commissioner.
Thank you. And I couldn't, just want to confirm, because I tried to count based on the picture, but how many beds are in each parts of this program?
In sobering, there's 14 care stations with 4 individual rooms, and down in managed withdrawal, there's 29 care stations.
And that's on slide 6, too.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. I think I'm just, I'm feeling a little concerned about that we're just kind of going full steam ahead on a site-based model when my understanding is not a lot of projects operate this way. And I completely agree that we need sobering spaces. That's something that was a huge loss in the community. My understanding is Flora Health continues to have vacancies in their sobering space. So I'm concerned that we're going down a path that's going to cost a lot of money, and am not sure if we're going to get the return on investment on the other side. And not knowing the operating cost, it also becomes hard to know what that ongoing value will be. What is our current referral numbers and usage of our existing site?
So, Commissioner, perhaps I could speak to a couple of the points that you just made earlier. So I just want to note that although deflection will be housed in this center, this facility will actually provide services to the broader community, not just to those in deflection. So deflection operations will be run out of this facility. However, the other services like sobering, withdrawal management, medication-assisted treatment will be available community-wide, and referrals in can be much, much broader. The other thing I want to note is that this facility, unlike really anywhere else in the community, will provide services 24/7. So the utilization, the utilization is difficult to compare with what is happening at other community provider organizations, because nobody is really equipped to do these intakes 24/7 like we would be. So it's not really an apples to apples comparison, so we'd have to look into how to properly analyze that, but the idea would be that this fills a critical gap so that we could even receive referrals from organizations like FORA or others who are not able to take, or emergency departments, right? We can take referrals from a lot of different sources at many, many more hours out of the day.
Thank you. And I think one of the questions would become, what I think we heard in some of the public testimony is what's then the other side. Withdrawal management is desperately needed, and after a week, where are folks supposed to go? So where are we at with the existing programming in prioritizing access to the behavioral health shelters that we have in the community?
I think that work is still underway, and I think we can provide an update to you. I'd rather also follow up with that. I know we were just here a couple of weeks ago, but I'd like to get that really solidified before I make a statement about it. Thank you.
Thank you. And then my last piece is, I know we've talked about a couple of times, is storage, and I've seen some spaces of storage. I saw lockers. I'm unclear if the storage that I see on here is our storage as the operator, if it's people's storage. And I think when I first joined the board, there was conversation about data and how folks were leaving, weren't staying, but were saying part of the concern was their belongings being unattended outside. And so we had talked about storage. Is that being addressed in this current design? And are we addressing the likelihood of needing bed bug remediation for people's belongings, as happens in homeless services across the system?
Thanks, Commissioner. Yes, we heard your words loud and clear the last time. We do have storage spaces for participants, and we have a full bed bug room that's accessible for right as the first responder drop off. They actually can go right in there with their belongings and then take those to the participants wherever they're located.
Awesome, thank you. It's so important for folks to have their stuff with them, so I appreciate you making sure that that's included in the design. Thank you all.
Thank you, Commissioner Moyer.
Oh, good thing everyone else was brief, because I've got some questions. I gave them to them ahead of time, so I'm not that cruel. I gave you 24 hours, so sorry about your last 24 hours. Some of them have already been asked, so I will try to not repeat those. But I think my questions are really heavily on the programming, because it could impact design, or is the design appropriate for what the actual need might be? So there isn't a ton I have for the DCA team, other than just a question related to looking at the Gantt chart. I think we don't get into interior work until the end of 26, if I remember correctly. If we realized that we wanted to make non-structural modification, or significant structural, doesn't change any loads or anything, do we have some flexibility, understanding it would still probably take some design team time to make adjustments up until that interior construction?
So thank you, Commissioner Moyer. We do have time, and it depends, how much time depends on the scale of changes. If you're talking about changes within just the sobering and intake area, or just within the withdrawal area, and the changes are minor, like adding a single enclosed room or removing one, there's a good bit of time for that, at a cost, of course. As the changes increase, though, the time becomes more limited because the interior layout is associated with the building system's layout, electrical, lighting, fire system. I mean, think about where the vent is and where the outlets are and where the lighting is. And so that work is happening before the interior finish work is. So it's really about the scale. Something that would be beyond those individual spaces, like that might change entrances or exits or the firewall in between the areas, we would have to pause the project for many months. And, but yeah, what you're talking about, there's still some time to look at a cost.
Great, thank you. One of my biggest questions, so I'm going to focus more on the 24-hour side and less on, although I have a few questions about detox, is making sure that we're right-sizing depending on lessons learned at Pathway Center, but also, you know, things are constantly changing in the substance use space, as has police priorities and many other things. So I guess my question is, how are we, and you touched a little bit on partnerships, but how are we going to assess, hopefully before this building is fully constructed, what the actual need and utilization for sobering will be based off of Pathway Center and this outreach work that we're doing to increase partnership? And how long do you think it would take to get a real sense of, is the amount of space we're dedicating to sobering the right amount of space and the right design for who we will be serving?
We were just deciding who was going to respond to you, Commissioner. Thank you for your question. So, you know, these issues did arise at the initial planning stages, and that's part of where the balance between the size for the withdrawal management side of the facility, where there will be cost reimbursable services run, and the, let's say, 24-hour sobering side came about. So there have been some initial, reflections on what the expected need was, but also the idea for sobering was, something that came about early on in this, and we were responding to that. So, what was the approach that was taken was to allow that side of the facility to remain flexible to incorporate crisis stabilization services in the event that there is a need to do something a little bit different in that space. The build would permit that, and as was previously presented, the space conforms to what we expect will be the approved crisis stabilization center rules. So there are options in the event that a need arises to make some changes, and that those services should also be beneficial to the general population that we're targeting for services within the facility. So I think at this stage, that's probably the best answer that I can offer, but it definitely is something that we were very mindful to consider throughout the design process, and also when proposing how the programming could look.
One of the questions that I have gotten from people in my district has to do with transportation. And so I'm just wanting to get a sense of the plan of how people will come. Especially, I do strongly support that it be open much broader than first responders, but just questions about transportation, both to and then if somebody's transitioning to the next step of their recovery out. So can you talk briefly about transportation?
Yeah, so we still plan to have individuals brought to the center by the referring partners, and obviously we're trying to continually expand that to increase utilization. So we're still looking at a model where folks, come to the center. Now they may come back independently if they're having a return visit with a case manager or something, and then we'd figure out that. Right now at the Pathway Center, there is a van that we provide transportation with, or Turk House provides transportation with. So one of the main things that we really want to dig into once CBI comes on is how do we kind of expand our transportation options for the permanent facility, because we've heard loud and clear that there's obviously a need for example, to take capacity off law enforcement where they just maybe not have the time to take folks that need to come. So part of that's going to be a partnership with Portland Street Response too, since they can shuttle people right now. So once we get that provider on, we're just going to keep working to see what makes sense to expand, look at like what are the different cost options associated with that. So it's definitely top of mind to us too, because we know how critical that's going to be for utilization.
In relationship to a point that Ms. Cade brought up in her testimony, this is, and it is a very important expansion to a front door that has been lacking in our community, which I am very excited about, that hopefully by its 24-hour nature and the multiple services that this can operate, we're hopefully going to see an increase in people making that decision to address their substance use disorder. But I have questions about, as we look at that expansion, the work we've done related to other areas within the continuum where there is unmet need. And one of my biggest concerns has been, are we going to very unintentionally endanger people by medically assisting their detox without any reasonable path to the correct level of treatment services for them? And how would we mitigate that?
Thanks for the question, Commissioner. I would just say that, we, as you described, there really are gaps in what is available for folks with really complex needs. And fundamentally, that does need to be addressed. Obviously, through this facility, we're not going to be able to address all of that. However, I think when things are challenging in this way, it comes down to the fundamentals and really doing those as well as we can, and taking the lessons that we've had the opportunity to learn and using those to do things better and to put our focus in the right places. So really, I think that comes down to partnership with all of the organizations that are out there, supporting those organizations. It's interesting, you had heard during the presentation that we're working with recovery housing organizations to get referral into our current program. And what that really does is it allows them to keep folks that otherwise they may not be able to keep in their programs. So there's other ways that we can, given the constraints that we're working within, there are still ways to do things better. And I think that's really where we're going to start first. So when we bring in our new provider, the support that we want to offer to that provider is to really focus there, right? So we will have an organization to work with to help build those partnerships, and that will not be secondary to the delivery of services. That's really going to be primary. We really want to serve that function as a coordinator within the system, and this facility gives us kind of a hub out of which to do that. So, and of course, there are probably many other ways that we can work to support and build out those systems, but I think that's the starting point that's coming to mind now, is just we still have a lot of work to do on those core things. We do them, and still we can do better, and we will focus there. And I think that's a big lesson coming out of our work with the Pathway Center.
When we open on day one, you had 4 services that are planned, and that would be like, we cut the ribbon, it opens, those 4 are in place, is that correct? Okay.
Yeah, that's correct.
When we talk, so it's sobering, detox, deflection, medically assisted treatment. Which medically assisted treatment are we currently planning to support?
So we are currently in conversations, so we're working out what the specifics of the services will be. So I'd prefer at this time to defer answering that question and get back to you in writing. We have our operator. We had, they applied for procurement with specific services that were options for them, and so we're in that process now.
Under the medically assisted detox, will we be able to serve people with medically assisted detox or comfort medication, depending on it, for all types of substance use disorder, or are there groups of individuals we cannot serve?
We are anticipating being able to serve all individuals that are appropriate, yes.
Great. One of the things that I looked at the design, and I'm not a designer of, substance use related facilities, I understand why you would have a low wall line of sight. Like I've been around a lot of psychiatric facilities. I'm aware of some of those things. But I am also, it's kind of got a bit of a milieu vibe. And I'm wanting to understand the thought process around programming of people who are not appropriate for involuntary treatment or not appropriate to transfer to Unity or Providence, but are actively experiencing it could be psychosis, hallucination, whatever, due to either dual diagnosis or methamphetamine, and how will we appropriately support those people, but also it not be disruptive to the larger group of individuals who are also there?
So we'll have a certain clinical criteria for admission. So assuming someone that you're describing meets that clinical criteria, then right now on the sobering side, there are 4, quiet rooms. So that's an option for them there. We've also been discussing the option of putting in some quiet rooms on the withdrawal management side as well.
Okay. Thank you, I appreciate that. I want to clarify this because I think this is an area I care deeply about and know intimately. But I get a lot of constituents who misunderstand the nature of voluntary services and involuntary services, and like how everything changes the minute you start doing something involuntarily. You're in a wildly different regulatory world. Am I correct that if we deem somebody needs involuntary services, this is not where they will be served? Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay, thank you, I appreciate that. Another point of clarification, and I think you addressed this, that we will be ASAM certified at 3.7. Does that mean that we can do on-site ASAM assessments at the new facility?
Yeah.
Great. Thank you. And then kind of my last line of questioning is very much in line with Commissioner Singleton's concerns, which I share around, do we know what financial commitment we're getting into when it comes to the mix of what's reimbursable and not reimbursable, and can we sustain it? One of my questions on the reimbursable service side, are we utilizing a strategy that maximizes the Medicaid reimbursement rate, which there are several ways of doing, but there is a difference between the rate that you can get if you contract something out just through the county, which is usually about 70% of cost, give or take, or if you have a scenario in which you're billing under something like an FQHC or a CCBHC, which is a Certified Community Behavioral Health Clinic. So I'm wondering, just because I'm like, how do we sustain this? What work are we doing to make sure that we are setting it up programmatically to maximize the rate we could get?
Chair, board members, for the record, Justin Black, use he, him pronouns, Deputy COO here at Multnomah County, and I think the answer is yes. So we are going through a process right now with a couple consultants looking at a number of programs to see how we're maximizing billing. This right now is not on that, is not like the top tier that we're looking at, but it eventually falls in there. I think also having exploratory conversations around what it would take for the county to become a CCBHC. And I will say that is like, we're in the first days of that conversation and working with a consultant to do some evaluation around that. So I think on a broad context, yes, we're looking at that. I think there are definitely some limitations around what our FQHC can do and where they sit with their HRSA grant and what they're allowable to do. Because I think a lot of the services that are contemplated to be provided here are services that are outside their current HRSA grant. So I think there's a lot more work to do there. I would say that, as we talk about budget for this work, the biggest area of concern, frankly, is the participation by the city of Portland. So, the FY26 budget, the budget you're in right now, it had $1.9 million coming from the city of Portland that is not coming. And so there will be at some point a budget modification that you all will have to get that will deal with that 1.9 and talk about the programs and services expansion that we weren't able to do this fiscal year. Right now, the 1.9 sits in contemplation with the department's budget for being in the deflection. So there are some, moving parts there. I would also say that at the state level, deflection, is one of the programs we hear legislators go, do we still need to pay for that? I'm just gonna be honest, like there is a lot of moving parts in the finances for this program. And there are some very big, red flags of things we need to be watching and looking out for.
And then just to clarify, because I know for some services, particularly I'm thinking about if somebody were to transition into treatment, they cannot have unmet medical need. To what degree will this facility be able to deal with lower level health issues like, wound care, things that don't require necessarily a trip to an emergency room, but are we going to be able to address those so that people can come and use our services and be ready to go to treatment after?
Thanks for that question, Commissioner. I think this is something that we will need to be considering as we, go through our negotiations with our incoming contractor, and also to look at what is permitted under the various, licensure requirements or certification requirements that we are obtaining in order to perform these services. So this is something that I think is an ongoing part of the conversation. I think our goal will be to do as much as we can, and then that which we can't do for whatever the reason might be, we would then have processes in place to be able to support referrals out. And we will have, care coordination is going to be integrated into this model, and we will, so that is, as well as peer support and lots of other ways that we hope to support individuals who come through the door to get to where they need to be if for some reason that's not an option to do on-site. So all in the works, I would say.
And I think my last question is, I look at our current system and how different, where people are ending up because these services don't exist, many of which are highly expensive settings in which our CCO partners are financially responsible for. Because I'm thinking a lot, I am a big believer in crisis stabilization. I think our community desperately needs that as well as sobering. But to what degree are we engaging with HealthShare and Trillium around how bringing, I hope it becomes reimbursable, but they still have a role to play with setting rate. What conversations are we having with them around their commitment to us offering a service in lieu of, even if I took somebody to an ER or Unity and they don't get admitted, the cost of taking that human being there is extremely high, as it should be, because you have to have the very highest level of, it's psychiatrists, it's the facility to handle really acute situations. So I'm wondering to what degree we are engaging with them and the health authority, because there's also, they pay for the inpatient side of things, around, hey, we're gonna help you reduce spending. How are you committing to making sure that we can offer that broad range of service?
Well, what I would say specifically with HealthShare is, are you familiar with the work they've been doing around the high acuity behavioral health population, where there's the intersection of SUD and homelessness and mental health? I assume you are.
Yeah, I can't say I know how it's been on the field. I'm aware of the conversations.
Okay, so we're at the table for that, and I think that's one of the highest cost drivers they're seeing, and I think this facility, to your point, is a good place for those folks to be served at. And so that population is spending, it's smaller, but it's taking up a lot of money. And so the question is how does that money get dispersed back out in the system to ensure that we have residential and other things that folks need. So while we aren't necessarily having the conversation specific to this facility, we are at the table and thinking about how we're addressing that population.
And I think to add on to that is the work that the department's done around crisis and making sure that as they engage with that rulemaking process, to ensure that this is in line with that, to make sure that could happen. I would also call out that, I think that what we've learned through this process is that we have to be iterative, and that we have to constantly be changing on how and what we're driving for services. Like, I think that, the conversation we've had around deflection and connection to HMIS and homelessness services, and making sure that we have those improvements. And I think that's a constant with this in the background. So I think, as we talk about services today, I think that there is, contemplation that we have to keep on changing and looking and moving and making sure that we're adapting to what is needed.
Okay, and this is my last question, and I'm channeling my inner Commissioner Singleton. Will this facility have access and participate in HMIS so that we know when we are serving people?
I think we will, yes. I think we've already begun to ensure that that's happening as part of our current programming. And so I anticipate that we will stay on that course, and probably some.
Okay, great. Those are my questions.
Thank you. Commissioner Singleton, you had a follow-up?
I did. I just had a quick question. You made a comment about referrals, and I just wanted to make sure that we're looking at all the opportunities to actually do warm handoffs and not just referrals, because sometimes those words aren't interchangeable.
Absolutely, yes, yes.
Awesome, thank you.
Okay, thank you. I know Commissioner Brand-Myers, you said you had closing comments? Okay, go ahead and make them, and if anybody, yep, this is the time.
Thank you so much. Since 2019, when Hooper Sobering closed, we've had a gap in sobering services, and we know that there has been an ongoing gap in 24/7 access to withdrawal management plan, and that there's an ongoing need for that. More broadly, we know in this community, we've seen the data, we have an urgent need for more mental health and drug treatment options. And we don't need a study to tell us that. You can, walk in many neighborhoods or in the streets of Multnomah County, City of Portland, and see people in crisis every day. So since I got on the commission, I really have worked to try and, having heard from first responders and also just the general community of people, like knowing that there's a humanitarian crisis, with nowhere for people to go, and also hearing from first responders where generally their options for if they find somebody who is intoxicated, it was jail or the ER, which we know is not the appropriate place, or to leave them on the street, which is not also a humane response, but often one of the, the only option. So I've appreciated the sort of broad response from the county and also our external partners to try and find a better front door. And so when we put together the core project team, we included across the county, really the relevant departments that have the internal expertise, but also our community partners, the leaders of Fora Health, Adventist Hospital, Central City Concern, Judge Nanton Waller, people who have been involved in this work for a long, long time. And how do we build something that is, as Marissa said this morning, a broader or wider front door, or another way to put it, like no wrong door, that we can provide services and get people really on a path to care and treatment. So I'm really appreciative that we're at this moment today, and I know like I've really been pushing so to Lightning's comment of like how come it's taken so long, like it's complex, and I will just note that I'm appreciative that the health department, when we originally designed the plan, said we should be adding withdrawal management services. And while that did stretch out the timeline, I also think we have a more complete suite of services, and having looked at other sort of sobering and crisis stabilization centers around the country and even in Oregon, this gives us a lot more flexibility and better care, so we're not relying on a referral that may not actually result in a direct connection to services. So yes, it did take longer, but I think we've have something that will provide better services and better care. I'll just note that Washington and Clackamas County already have crisis stabilization centers that provide some sobering services and the crisis stabilization. So, you know, we're going to be in good company, and hopefully we're going to take the opportunity to learn from each other as we stand up these really needed services. I'm appreciative that the previous commission and this commission have taken steps to really bring us to today, whether for this commission specifically, the unanimous vote to move ahead with the FAC 1 project design for the Sobering and Crisis Stabilization Center. That happened in April, and then recently our unanimous commission adoption of the updated deflection program policy. So really a commitment from this commission to let's really provide more robust supports and a front door for those in need of both sobering and sort of the ongoing treatment services. We know that we're going to still, even with this, we'll still have gaps in services and places to go, but this is a critical building block. I appreciate the questions about the next step, because I do think that needs to be built out. And again, this is why I think we get the program, if we get that program timeline with the milestones, the programmatic timelines, the milestones, we'll be able to assess like where are the ongoing gaps to make sure that we aren't creating a new gap in the pipeline or a new pinch point in the pipeline. So I think that will allow us to do some work, and we, you know, since this is scheduled to open in 2027, we're going to have time to do that, and we'll have time as things come up along the way to know when we've got to go advocate with the state or with our partners, or where we need to pivot. I will say that I had a conversation yesterday with the mayor about their commitment to the sobering services and crisis stabilization, because they this is the city of Portland, they are one of the beneficiaries of us having the service. And we're going to keep the pressure on the city to be our financial partners, and also be our partners in the sense of you know, law enforcement, chat, Portland Street Response, all the other sort of that network of first responders who we believe will also be utilizing this service to bring people there. So while I have been sort of frustrated with the timeline and pushing hard to keep us moving along, you know, that frustration mainly is because I know every day and every night we have individuals who need these services, but I want to just share my appreciation for the fact that we're here today and for the work that's gone into it, and know that we have a whole network of external partners in our community who are going to be supportive of us moving this project forward. So thank you.
Any other closing comments? Okay, thank you. So I just want to give, again, I think I started this way, but I'm going to continue. Thank you so much to DCA and the Health Department for all of your work on this project, both the current temporary pathway center, which was open in record time and has been an incredible feat, I think, for the county to have set up and created in response to the demands that we have been hearing from law enforcement in the city of Portland to have a place for people to go. And also, to recognize the change in criminalization of drugs and the desire to have an alternative to our justice system. I want to say that this permanent site is going to be a very needed benefit for our community, a very needed service. I think that we've heard a lot about the programmatic element, so thank you guys for talking about that today. But I think ultimately, what this is doing is creating something that we don't currently have in our community, this 24-hour, 7-day-a-week facility that is really addressing the scope and the depth of the problems that we have with accessing services when people need that in the right way. And that's one of the things that give me the most hope about this. I appreciate all of the comments from the board about, concerned about just what this means in terms of the commitment of the county for ongoing costs for a facility like this. I think that's why maximizing all of the different possibilities with Medicaid reimbursement has been a part of thinking about this center for a really long time, as well as the need for the county. And I think especially, this board has a role to play too, as the state engages in rulemaking and what that means in terms of the crisis stabilization and how we're able to utilize the state as a partner in trying to set up facilities like this when they're so needed. And I do think that we have to continue to talk about the importance of investments in things like this, which truly are benefiting our entire community and especially our partners at the city when we talk about the commitment for that. I've been very disappointed with the lack of commitment and follow-up from things that the city has said that they would do, that they were committed to doing in terms of providing sobering services and funding those sobering services from Mayor Wilson. And I do think that even in this upcoming budget, he's only committing to $1 million when it's $1.9 million. That was what the city was doing as of 2019 and before, right? The city was only the ones paying for this. That's not even talking about the cost of inflation or the additional need for the providing these services in an ongoing way. I have already had conversations with the new council president about this, and so we'll continue to do this. But again, I encourage my colleagues to continue doing that as well, because this is a partnership. This is something that is a direct benefit for our law enforcement partners and for our city and community as a whole. I also, though, want to say that the thing that I've also appreciated that this board has really prioritized, and I know has been reflected in the way that the county has been doing this work, is the community engagement and the impact. So thank you for the slide that talked about some of that work that was happening. And we will continue to do that as this facility gets closer and closer to opening. And then finally, thank you, DCA. I know what we're doing right now is is part of the technical process for actually building this. But I want to thank you, Greg and Dan, for all of your work on doing this and getting us to this point today. And this is a complex situation with a lot of licensing and permitting proposals. And I know you guys have been moving things forward as fast as possible because we do want to get this up and running. So thank you for that. All right, with that, can we have a roll call vote, Emily?
Commissioner Moyer?
Yes.
Commissioner Singleton?
Yes.
Commissioner Brim Edwards?
Yes.
Vice Chair Jones Dixon?
Yes, thank you.
Chair Vega Peterson?
Yes, the resolution is adopted. Thank you. All right, we're now going to move on to R3, which is the work session. But we're going to change, and so we'll take a 5-minute recess and reconvene at 11:25 in our work session format. we are back from recess, and now we're ready to get started with R3. Do you want to announce it, Emily?
R3, work session on legislative action to reaffirm and strengthen, excuse me, the county's sanctuary status.
All right, thank you so much. So we recently had a discussion at the March 3rd board briefing on the need for action to strengthen our community's sanctuary status, and resources has not gone away. So I'm really looking forward to the board discussion today to talk about the next steps on the legislative approach through an ordinance and resolution to clarify what we can do locally to counteract the incursion of federal immigration officials that we're seeing. And I do want to thank staff for all of, and Jenny Madcore and your team for all the work that's been done since the board briefing to develop the resolution and ordinance that we're going to be discussing about today. And with that, I will turn it over to Commissioner Singleton.
Thank you, Chair. I think just also again want to reiterate the appreciation and know that want to make sure folks know that Salome and Garrett have continued to engage CBOs, community members, providers, vendors, frontline staff, and both immigrant and refugee staff and community. I think one thing, again, that I said last time is I really want us to look at how we can show up here and be bold and stand up to the authoritarian bullies who continue to wreak havoc in this community. I also want to elevate something that just came to light this morning in an Oregonian article about the impact that the constant changes in immigration policy is having on workers, and it's particularly impacting Preschool for All providers. The article scratches the surface on what's happening in the community and people having to change. Having the constant changing requirements means that folks are sometimes unable to get their work permits reinstituted. And so we're having another, not only the human impact of this, but impact on the workforce for one of our most critical programs. So I think that's why we're pushing at this point with some urgency for the county to really have this work session, have some final conversations so we can move towards passing both an ordinance and a resolution. And so I'll stop there and hand it over to Garrett and Salome.
Good morning, Chair, Commission. My name is Garrett Pryor, he, him pronouns. I'm the Chair's Senior Policy Advisor on Infrastructure.
Good morning, Chair and Commissioners. My name is Salome Chimuku Aishi and her pronouns, and I am the Policy Director for Commissioner Shannon Singleton.
We'll have a brief, maybe 10 minutes of presentation just to build off what the Chair and Commissioner Singleton said, and then we'll turn it back to the group here for discussion.
You can go to the next slide, Emily. So for today's purpose of the meeting is that we are here to provide, to get feedback from you all as the commissioners on a draft ordinance that was prepared by our county attorney and discuss legislative next steps to strengthen our community's sanctuary status. One of the things I'll highlight with this is that what you see before you is a draft that the county attorney has prepared. And so with this work session, we're hoping to get feedback from you all as Board of Commissioners to add to that draft that the county attorney prepared based off of comments from our December 18 resolution. And so when we're going to be moving forward, as Commissioner Singleton alluded to, hopefully with this discussion here, we'll be able to add or make changes to the draft that is provided today. Next slide, please. This is just an image of the board with some of the immigrant and refugee folks within the community, some staff, some not, from our Immigrant and Refugee Heritage Month proclamation. Next slide, please. So I'm just going to quickly try to recap what Garrett and I heard and who we heard it from. I'll just start with where we got feedback from. So some of this came from our immigration and legal services providers, community members, employees, including our immigrant and refugee ERG and our queer, trans, people of color ERG or employee resource groups, service providers, government partners, County Emergency Operations Center, and our community-based organizations and leaders. When it came to what we heard, some of the key themes that kept coming up over and over again was the experience from all angles when it comes to what changes in federal immigration policy does to Multnomah County. Some of that had to do with personnel and such as wide range of things from people's own status to workplace experience. Others being about all programs and all different departments being impacted. We definitely heard from some individuals about wanting to make sure that whatever is instituted applies to the entire enterprise and not just the obviously public-facing ones. Other key feedback that we received was the wanting to have collaborative engagement in rulemaking, and also the impact that this is having on community members, clients, and other services, such as where is these safer places and how the county would respond in emergency situations or in a disruption of services. Next slide, please.
And I'll just say the one thing to build on what Salome was saying there, I would encapsulate it as a yes and approach we're hearing from community. Yes, get a single sentence or some specificity down in code in that direction, but the details of how that code is actually carried through so that the top line directives or policies that are given to our department heads actually reach down to the people. And so that's why you'll see in a lot of the feedback we got, there's a real desire to have a certain amount of granularity or specificity that what Salome was talking about. As far as, yes, it's good to get that in code, but how it actually gets implemented and having people involved in that process and administrative rulemaking or like the training program itself is a really key component of it.
Yeah, and as we get further in the slides and we get to the section talking about components, I might pepper in some more of the feedback so it stays relevant.
Okay, I'll stay as salt, you be pepper, that'd be good. Dad joke, yeah, I got you. Examples from other local governments. City of Portland's been doing a good amount of work of that this past fall, and then most recently with their impact fee on the land use code. I'd say though, if you pull up what they adopted in ordinance, it's pretty litigious and lengthy. It's very detailed out. And in our feedback kind of with the county attorney and what we'll see from Commissioner Singleton and the chair, we're a different setup here at the county than the city is necessarily in legislative making. And then even years past, it was like 2018, 2016, they adopted that a more concise, but the sanctuary code at the state level, they adopted it in the city code. Next slide. So when we looked around the country, I just refreshed myself today on the actual code language that was adopted in these different entities. So in New York City, the piece that I found that was helpful there is that it did talk about how federal law enforcement and local law enforcement, ways they can or can't work together, but it actually defined out some of these terms that we use of what is federal law enforcement. So I found that helpful. In San Francisco, and it gets kind of the point we heard from feedback of employee resource group of what about workplace harassment or other actions by employees that might not be as clear as just going to ICE or reporting on another employee. And so in the San Francisco code, it actually fleshes out that language a little bit more of what it means to be a county employee and how this would apply to you. And then in Cook County, which sits over Chicago, they also had on the kind of the law enforcement interaction, some additional language outside of like thou shalt not kind of work together around how detainment would work, and then how that would then be reported to the chief operating officer. And that's one of the pieces that was in the draft ordinance that was in your packet is that there's just a lot of like mystery or concern from community about, we know there's these protocols within the sheriff's office or DCJ and federal law enforcement, but what actually happens when those interactions occur. And so that's where Cook County built in this notification process, at least to the COO, when those incidents do happen.
I will just say, the other local governments, those are also states that don't have statewide sanctuary protections, or do some of those also have statewide sanctuary protections?
Some of them also do have statewide sanctuary protection.
Okay.
Yeah. All right, next slide. So what I'm going to go through now is what was in your packet, but as we'll see here in a minute, this content is covered, just not all specifically in the draft ordinance that the commissioner and chair will pass out here in a second, but I'll highlight what is. So in the draft ordinance was a reference to codify the state sanctuary code and local law. It would clarify that it applies to all county-funded offices and employees and those who hold contracts within the county. This number 3, this is one that will kind of remain in the proposed ordinance, to produce signage to clearly identify restricted areas for access and identify processes for notification and compliance. You want to add?
Yes, and so one thing I would like to add from this in terms of the feedback that we heard, particularly number 3, was making sure that signage is clearly identified on all county-owned properties was really a strong value that most of our respondents replied to. Also, when it came to signage, including resources and making sure that those resources are available in several different languages. So that way county employees don't have to rush to request a translation of a material or resource to give to clients or providers or whomever is asking for it.
Yeah, and I'd say, Commissioner Moyer, you had in the last briefing, how far out can we put this signage? What's the extent of that? And in the COO report back on these implementation pieces, County Attorney MedCorp put some information on what we were able to do there. Next slide. So number 4 will be in the proposed ordinance to identify protections that are in place for personal data collected by the county. And then the other topics were employees would complete an annual mandated training for county employees on sanctuary protections, and that the county communication of training on sanctuary protections would then also be available for contracted providers and not just in county employees. Anything you want to add there?
And for number 6, with the that training being available to contractors and providers, that was something that contractors and providers actually asked for. Many of them are smaller organizations, or even some of the larger ones just wanting some consistent language to make sure that they're in compliance with any county contract that includes sanctuary provisions. And so they saw it as a training to help them stay within compliance of our own policies.
Yep, and we did get some feedback from the county attorney's office that we don't want to be implied that we're giving legal advice to people, and so there's some balance there of how that training is communicated. Next slide. So other topics we're kind of hearing in real time from you all, or community, from March 3rd to now, would be to prohibit the county from entering into contracts with the federal government to operate immigration detention centers. Commissioner Bram Edwards, you brought up this next point around unincorporated Multnomah County. What are the land use regulations we have there? We talked to Megan Gibb and Margie Bradway and that team. And they said if you were to do this quickly or now, you would trigger this process where you have to basically mail every single property owner in the county because it'd be a more restrictive code. But they are planning in this next year through the land use code update to do that type of mailing and revise. So if y'all wanted to, through the resolution, direct that kind of work to be included in that code update, that would be a friendly amendment. They could include it in that process. And then the last 2 were you.
And the other topics that came up for us were county code when it came to employment provisions to address employees' concern around improving accountability. This is that piece of employees really wanting a call out of what is the process if a coworker was to violate policy or harassment was to occur. What are the steps would be taken? What disciplinary actions would happen? A lot of employees really felt that it wasn't clear to them what that process is or what that looked like. And that also included some of our external partners and providers in asking that same question as well. And lastly, other training, not mandatory, such as know your rights, what to do if immigration enforcement comes for a coworker or you, or how to fill out the incident reports. And so those are just pieces that outside of the mandatory training of what are the steps to follow and what is expected of you, staff and outside partners highlighted it'd be important for staff to also have available to them if they want to a know your rights type of training as an individual. And also what might be some steps a manager or supervisor may take if immigration is looking for an employee that they supervise or manage, and how they would be notified or what would happen, as well as how to fill out those incident reports of disruption of services due to these activities. And we can go to the next slide. So right now, we're talking about the ordinance approach. When it comes to resolution versus an ordinance, talking about differences, when it came to the feedback we heard from community members, a lot of community members and staff reiterated wanting an ordinance versus resolution. The way that it was presented, or the way they gave that feedback to us, was they felt that an ordinance had more enforceability in the sense that if there was a change down the line in the future, that would have to be board approved. And so they kind of went with that when they gave their feedback of what they would like to see in an ordinance versus a resolution. So that was their understanding. And then when it comes to the process, we will be, if we do pass an ordinance, it will lead to administrative rulemaking and operational details, for example, like contract language, other things that would need to be updated. And that would happen in a rulemaking kind of procedure, similar to how we had rulemaking after our concealed gun ordinance and resolution that came from the state. And then lastly, the whole vision here and the idea is that with the county stepping in, doing an ordinance, having things in contract, having a resolution, that the vision is that other local governments will adopt provisions as well and provide clarity to their staff and employees and to their community members. As we know, only a few of the cities within Multnomah County have updated their sanctuary status, and so this was seen as a way to give them a place to start from.
Yeah, and the only thing to say to build on that is I think we're at a real civil rights movement. We know that our federal immigration system has been broken for a long time, but the kind of emphasis we have now, I'm thinking back to like early Black Lives Matter movement, where there's a certain level of simplicity of like, here's things you can do at your local government. And this isn't a shade to anything that the city of Portland adopted, but that is so like lengthy and litigious and detailed that its replicability isn't, it's going to be challenging. So I think the approach where we have a simple ordinance, simple steps you can take as a government, I would love to take that to East County. I would love that to take to our Washington County governments that have been reaching out to us, Clackamas throughout the region, and we have like a network of local consistent regulation that helps build upon the state code.
And so we can go to the next slide. And just to add to the next steps, you know, we want to address comments raised today by you all as the board. Garrett and I will prepare and work with the county attorney's office for any recommendations that you want to see added, deletions, things like that. And then also come around to your offices to speak with you about the feasibility and issues there, and then prepare for future board actions once we get a determination on, you know, what comments you give us and how long it takes us to get those into writing for you. And lastly, to end on Garrett's note, I think one of the most important things is that with simplicity to an ordinance, we will definitely need to make sure that we are documenting our approach to this work, so that way folks can actually get the outcomes that we want to have, and make sure that is centered around those most impacted. And I'll turn it back to you, Chair, to lead discussion.
All right, thank you so much to both of you for all of the work on this. And then Emily, I know that you were working on getting some of the most recent documents uploaded. Are you able to? All right, great. So that should be available online, but what was passed out to the board as well was kind of the latest thinking on how we would move forward, some legislation from the commission on the sanctuary status. So we have And it really does take in what has been talked about and it kind of organizes it according to like what is the best for Multnomah County, like what is the best vehicle to put forward some of the areas of action that this board wants to see. So there's an ordinance that really talks more specifically about the duties and powers of the chair and adding some language here that is specifically related to, managing county property to be aligned with the Oregon Sanctuary Promise Act, and talks a little bit about some of the policy around data collection and things like that. But then it also has a resolution that really encompasses, our commitment to the Oregon's Sanctuary Act and more appropriately sets some county policy around the principles and directs the chair, or not, requests the chair and the COO to actually implement that and create county rules so that we're not having it. So that's, like, I think, the best way to be set up in terms of the county being able to actually enact a lot of these things. I also wanted to make sure that everyone on the board took note of the response letter that Tracy Massey had sent out in response to some of the things that came up at our first briefing, some of the questions that had come up in our briefing that we had, which walks through a lot of different areas that were brought up that day, including, training and requirements around training, special situations, things like that. So that was a very thorough response to those questions, and I appreciate all the work that went into that. Okay, and so I would like to open it up for discussion, but Commissioner Singleton, do you want to jump in?
I just want to appreciate our county attorney for spending time with me to talk through some of the why we need both ordinance and resolution, and getting to a place that I think meets community request on having some things be an ordinance so it's codified in a way that is really protective, and some of it, particularly around staff training and those things that are internal focused, really are sitting in the resolution in a way that make a lot of sense. So I know it's hard because it's a bit of the why do we have both, but just to really articulate for me, when community is asking us to do something and for it to be codified in law, that's where the ordinance language became important. And I wouldn't expect that things change in the state of Oregon, but if they did, then these protections remain as that second layer. And so that's why I think the restricted areas and the definition of what that means is included in here in ways we haven't talked about before. So I think that clarity is also really helpful.
Commissioner Moore?
Yeah, I have a question about tangential to restricted area, which is restricted use. In an area that is available to the public, like a large parking lot next to a building, where we would not let somebody set up a food cart or stage a fundraiser without permission, can we equally restrict ICE from using our parking lot or other publicly available space for a purpose we would not let the public use that space for?
Thank you, Commissioner. If ICE wanted to set up a food cart, I think we would have a reasonable basis not to allow them to do so, because no other members of the public would be allowed to do that. But if a space is generally available for members of the public and the community to attend, like a parking lot, curtilage next to a building, or other areas, then law enforcement, including federal law enforcement, would also be permitted to be there for lawful purposes.
What does lawful purpose mean in that context? Like, if a parking lot is for the use of the public coming into a clinic, and I assume we don't let patrons of close by business, I mean, I don't know to the degree we monitor it, but like, I don't know if I assume there are buildings in which our parking lots will say, like, for blah, blah, blah health clinic, or for blah, blah, blah county building. Which, fine, if they're gonna come to our building, but I have heard, and I don't know if this is happening here, but it has happened in other places, that ICE has used public space to have an operational headquarter, or they're going to do their little rallying meeting there, and people are going to go pick people up and bring them back. Can we restrict the usage to things that are related to the purpose of that parking?
And that's a great question, Commissioner, and the answer is yes. We can restrict the use of county and government property for county and government uses. We can restrict it for county and government uses. However, those restrictions have to be made broadly and generally applicable. So if we're saying our parking lots are for county business and only for county patrons, and that would be enforced universally. So for example, if a member of the public was sitting up and having some sort of staging or other activities, they would likewise be excluded from the property.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions or discussion on this? Mike?
Thanks for bringing this back. This is maybe just a point of, I just want to make sure that on the ordinance, this is maybe a legal question, and I understand why we would put something in ordinance, but just a clarification. It appears there are two substantive additions. I mean, I'm not counting the definition, but two substantive additions to the code around data collection and access to restricted areas. And generally, two of those are already covered by the Oregon Sanctuary Promise Act, right? So even without this, that would be in place. This is, I'm sorry, I was looking at Jenny Madcore.
Thank you, Commissioner. So with regard to the restricted areas, yes. I think that our ordinance, though, the state law refers to spaces generally available to the public, and there has been a conception that phraseology may cause confusion amongst Multnomah County officials and members of the public. So we define the term restricted area to use maybe more plain language that more people would understand. So although it may have the same or similar impact, it's expressed in a different way, which we hope is more accessible and understandable.
So maybe my next question, you've added to that. So I was going to say, if parts of this are already covered by the Oregon Sanctuary Promise Act, the things that would be new would be the visible signage, like putting that in code that we're going to do that. And the second would be this definition clarifying, correct?
I think that's correct.
Okay, great. Thank you. I just want to make sure that like what was already in place and then what's new. And then
Commissioner, just one note on that topic. When it came to that language that already exists within the sanctuary policy at statewide, a lot of community members and staff felt that they wanted something locally, because if something was to change statewide, they want it not to change locally. So I do want to point that piece out. And to something that Commissioner Moyer mentioned earlier, through our community partners, we have received that there were 3 detainments that happened on county property that were very likely had interactions with folks as they were leaving or entering getting county services. So we do have some of that historical interruption already occurring here in Multnomah County.
Thanks, Salome, for reiterating what I had mentioned about the ordinance. I appreciate that.
just a question. The sanctuary policy, that's a statute. So, or are some of these the things that are carried forward in administrative rules? I'm just trying to understand how hard it would be to change, because
Yeah, so as Commissioner Singleton mentioned earlier, we're taking the state sanctuary law, mentioning it in our ordinance, and we're also putting provisions in there as well, so that way, if state was to change, that it would not change here. But it also allows for us to, in the event that things are updated at the statewide level, that would also be included, because since we're citing ORS, so if the state decides to bring more protections in, more specificity, we wouldn't have to go back and update ours every time, since we're citing that ORS.
Great. I'm very supportive of adding it in locally. I just wanted to clarify, because the answer is it's in statute, so it'd have to go through the whole process to change the statute. And then the other issue was, I appreciate the interim work around the question I had, because as I said at the last meeting, I didn't think it was very likely that they'd ask to use a county property, but as we've seen in the city of Portland, a lease property is, a potential. And so the answer, I appreciate knowing that, and being advised that by including something in this resolution, that would delay it because you've got to do the whole mailing out to all the addresses. So thank you for that. I would like to, and I'll work with, I think probably the county attorney and the DCS around something that would be that future for the future code update. Which obviously will be vetted with everyone else, but I think that's a good path to take. I still think it's fairly unlikely, but might as well. I think the city's finding to trying to do things afterwards, after something's already happened, is just way more complicated. So.
Well, and also just to quickly build up, I've been a land use director in my past, and even where the code and Megan Gibb was trying to make her interpretation of how it would line up, just giving our land use director more clarity so it's not so subjective and put on them in the future in the kind of low likely but maybe possible scenario I think be helpful from a staff.
Yeah, and it may, I need to just take a little bit deeper dive in this, but it may want to have the language be broad enough so it's, because we're thinking about a very specific thing right now, but it may be want to be a little bit broader within what you're allowed to do in land use. So thank you for looking into that, and we'll follow up.
Thank you. Commissioner John Dixon, did you?
Oh, just supportive. Just want to say thank you for your work and your leadership. I'm supportive of the ordinance and the resolution, and we continue to lead the way. So,
thank you.
Just a couple things I'll highlight from some of the responses we got, and we'll be sure to do them as track changes in the resolution. But I heard you say that community members being at least engaged in some feedback on the proposed training before it's finalized. There were some responses about people getting exemptions when they ask for it, and that doesn't quite meet my expectation that we're proactively telling them that they have the right to request these certain exemptions to in-person meetings. And so there may be some edits to the resolution based on what we got yesterday that I just have not had time to turn around by today. So I wanted to put that out to you all so you know that's coming. But again, it'll be in track changes so you can see where the changes where the changes are.
Thank you, Commissioner, for highlighting that. I think that that was probably one of the strongest things that we heard was with simplicity with an ordinance, making sure that rulemaking is able to get community feedback was really important to folks, as well as making sure that future rulemaking administrative work includes our immigrant and refugee ERG, as well as our QTPOC ERG that have been very vocal about their thoughts and their lived experience as county employees and how this pertains to the work that they do throughout the enterprise.
And then lastly, I just wanted to appreciate community members in the room, staff in the room, as well as who have joined online for all of the work, not only that you're putting into making sure we get this right, but also that you're doing every day to serve and support this community who is, again, being impacted even more greatly than they normally are in need of county services. So thank you, everybody.
Yep, I want to thank everyone who took the time to be here to do. We've got some people in the room, and Emily, I don't know if we can show who's on, who's also joined online, but just appreciate everybody taking the time. And again, thank you both for all of the work on this from the staff level. Jenny, thank you for your and Carlo's work on this as well. And looking forward, it sounds like we've got some maybe like minor changes to do and updates, but it looks like we're in a good position to move forward. So please, if there's anything else from this board that that you're interested in seeing in this, get it to our offices soon, and then we will look at scheduling this for board action in the upcoming weeks very shortly. So thank you all. So that brings us to the end of our regular agenda. We have time, well, we're a little bit over, but if there's anyone that has anything to share, I did want to just mention one important thing, which was around the Blazers. So last week, state lawmakers passed Senate Bill 1501, which authorizes the state to invest $365 million in the renovation of the Moda Center. And this investment in partnership with Multnomah County and the City of Portland will ensure at least 20 more years of entertainment, world-class sports, and community gatherings at Moda Center. On Friday, I will be submitting a letter to the NBA Commissioner, Adam Silver, outlining the proposed investment for Multnomah County and our commitment to continue working in good faith over the coming months with the City of Portland, State of Oregon, NBA, and the Blazers on binding agreements that will result in a major renovation of the Moda Center, a long-term extension with the Trailblazers, and tangible benefits for the community. We're committed to working on with our partners to establish labor agreements for construction, operation, and maintenance, and community benefit agreements with local partners, residents, and businesses. So I want to invite, because I welcome each of you commissioners to join me in signing onto this letter. Renovating the Moda Center is more than a construction project. It is a strategic commitment to Oregon's economic future, cultural identity, and shared civic life. So I wanted to make sure I got that on the record so everybody was able to sign in, and then I would open it up for any other comments.
I'll just be quick because I know we're over time, but if my comments next week are really long, too bad, too sad. Just wanted to share, because it's happening on March 17th at the Portland Workforce Alliance Northwest Youth Career Expo. Is the 17th from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. at the Oregon Convention Center. This will be open to thousands of students across the region, and it's one of the largest hands-on career exploration events for high school students in the Pacific Northwest. So wanted to make sure that that was, folks heard about that. And then just briefly, I want to appreciate the Black Business Association of Oregon and the Portland Metro Chamber for hosting the State of Black Business Breakfast and panel. It was awesome to see so many amazing friends and colleagues who I've gotten to know over my time in Portland, and just awesome entrepreneurs and small business owners. There was a clear call out for action on access to capital and procurement reform. This is something I've been hearing about since I was in the governor's office, and people are tired of talking about it and want to see action. So I just want to name that I'll look forward to working with community partners like Black Business Association of Oregon and NAMAC in the coming months to look at how the county can show up around access to capital, as well as some of the needed procurement reforms that we have at the county. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? Go ahead.
Great, thank you. Just wanted to say a huge thank you to county staff and everyone that participated with the 60 students that were here last week from PPS. They really, really enjoyed themselves. And again, thank you, Mr. Neal, for pitch hitting and spending a few hours with them as well. Definitely want to say shout out to Kemi for helping to do all the logistics, and Ashley for supporting, and just a huge thanks to Mustafa and Ronnie Favai for just creating that space for the students and providing really, really good food. The feedback has been great thus far, so more to come.
Well, thank you for organizing all of it, you and your office.
And we have Everybody Reads this afternoon, or this evening. So
Yes.
we have Jessica, you're going to mention that in your work.
Yes.
Just a couple of things. One, Commissioner Singleton references the Black Businesses of Oregon. I was there as well, but I also had a double header at lunch. I went to the Metropolitan Hispanic Chamber of Commerce annual meeting, and it was interesting, the similarities of the issues that were raised at both forums, and I think there's a real opportunity to integrate the work plans that both Black Businesses of Oregon, and the Metropolitan Hispanic Chamber also have into our work that we're doing around how are we supporting a thriving economy. They both had great just things that I think that are very actionable for us to do, and around generating not just incomes, but actually generational wealth. And then the second thing, just last night, I attended and spoke at the PDX St. Love's annual gala, and one of the issues that they focused on was this employment service and the connections between the city and the county, and the employment-related services they provide for just entry-level employment to help people get that sort of step off the street. And I know as we head into the budget process, those types of stories, they're super powerful of how the county and the city and our community partners are transforming lives through these types of employment opportunities. So I'm looking forward to our upcoming conversations about that.
Thank you. Commissioner Moyer, anything? Okay, as Commissioner Jones-Dickson referred to, tonight is one of the really seminal events for our Multnomah County Library and our county as a whole, which is the Everybody Reads program, which tonight, the book this year is Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson's lovely one, a memoir. It is the 2026 pick. We are really thrilled to have her joining us tonight for the Everybody Reads event. And I just wanted to share a quick quote from the memoir that I think is pretty strong and powerful, and I think a good prelude to what we're going to be hearing tonight. My hope is that the trials and triumphs of my journey as a daughter, sister, wife, mother, litigator, and friend will stand as a testament for young women, people of color, and strivers everywhere, especially those who nourished outsized ambitions and believe with stubborn faith in the possibility of achieving them. I want to encourage these bold dreamers not to be turned aside by adversity, because life will always present challenges. We must allow them to teach and fortify us and help us build confidence in our ability to find a way through. In the end, we must trust the path we choose to walk, anchored by a firm sense of our potential, inspired by the people with whom we surround ourselves, and bolstered by our willingness to keep on. So with that, I'll leave us with that tonight. That concludes our business. There being no further business, we are adjourned.